In this video, we're going to take a look at the sine rule. So the sine rule gives us another way to calculate missing sides or angles in a triangle. And unlike trigonometry, where we need a right angle triangle for trigonometry and so to work, this isn't true here for the sine rule. The sine rule works for any kind of triangle. Let me just quickly draw a diagram here. Let's just say we've got this triangle here. Now if I just quickly label the sides here, I've got A, B, and C here. Then the opposite angles here, the uppercase form of that side. So this angle here would be capital B because it's opposite B. That's capital B. This angle here would be capital A because it's opposite A. And then finally this would be capital C here because it's opposite C. Okay. So that's important. So just remember that point there, that the opposite angle is basically just the uppercase form of that side. Okay. So now for the sine rule here. So for the sine rule here, there's two ways that we can express the sine rule. And this is dependent on whether we want to find a missing length or a missing angle. So first let's take a look now at finding a missing length. So the sine rule here is A over sine A. So A over sine A, which is equal to B over sine B, which is equal to C over sine C. Okay, and like we said, this is for missing lengths here. That's for missing lengths. So now let's take a look here at for missing angles. So in this case here, for missing angles, it'll be sine A over A, which is equal to sine B over B, which is equal to sine C over C. Okay, and like we said, this is for missing angles here. Let's make a note of that here as well. This is for missing angles. Okay. So finally then, we just need to discuss here now, when do we use the sine rule? So use the sine rule if we have these two conditions here. So use sine rule if. So the first case in point here of when we use the sine rule is if we have two of the sides and we have one of the angles. We've got two sides, so two sides here, one angle. And then the other case here would be when we have two of the angles and just one side. So two angles and one side there. Okay. And there we have it. So that's everything that we need there for our introduction to the sine rule. Let's take a look now at some practice questions here for the sine rule. Starting off with question 1 now, we want to find the value of x given our solution to 1 decimal place. We can see the triangle here. So to find the value of x, we're going to need to use the sine rule. We're using the sine rule here. Now remember, there's two different ways that we can express a sine rule, because we're looking to find the value of this angle here. The sine rule that we need to use here would be sine A over A is equal to sine B over B, which is equal to sine C over C. Okay, so let's just label this triangle here. So let's just call this angle here A. That would mean this side here is A. We call this angle here B. That would mean this side here is little b. Okay. So now sine A over A, so that would be sine x over A, which is 5 here. We get sine x over A, which is 5. And that would be equal now to sine B here, so that's going to be sine 76. So sine of 76 That's all over little b here, which is 12. Okay. What we need to do to begin with here is get rid of this fraction here. So we just want sine x on its own to begin with. I'm going to times both sides here by 5. We're just using inverse operations here. So times both sides here by 5. On the left hand side then we're just going to simply get sine x on its own. On the right hand side now we're going to get 5 times sine 76 over 12. We get 5 times sine 76. That's over 12 here. Now, all we're looking for here is the value of x. Okay, so we just need x on its own. If we've got sine x here and we just want x, how do we get rid of the sine? Well, we use inverse sine. So that's the inverse operation here. And remember, that's a little sine, or it's a sine here with a little -1 above it like that on your calculator. So we take sine inverse here of both sides, like so. On the left hand side here, when we take sine inverse, that would just leave me with x on its own. On the right hand side here, we take sine inverse of this full expression here. We're taking sine inverse of 5 times sine 76 all over 12. Okay, so you just need to put this now into your calculator here. If you do this correctly here, don't forget to give your solution to 1 decimal place. What you should get then for x here, the value of this angle is 23.8 degrees. Okay, so 23.8 degrees there. And that gives us the solution there to question 1. And finally then, if we take a look at the very last question here, question 2, we've got this triangle here. We just want to find the value of a. So that's this missing side length here. So again, we just need to use the sine rule to find this missing side length. And because we're now looking for the missing side length here, the sine rule that we need to use here would be a over sine a. We get a over sine a, and that would be equal to b over sine b. And that would be equal to c over sine c. Okay, so if this side length here is a, let's just call this angle here capital A. And then this angle here, let's call that capital B. And then this side length here is little b. Okay, so now for everything that we need here to use the sine rule. So a over sine a, that's going to be a over sine of 51. We get a over sine 51. And that's going to be equal to little b here, which is 10 over sine of 99. Like so there. And what we're looking for here is the value of a. So basically we're just rearranging now and making a the subject here. So using inverse operations, we're going to times both sides here by sine of 51. So times both sides here by sine 51. Like so. On the left hand side then, we simply get left with a on its own, which is what we want. We get a. On the right hand side here, we're going to get sine 51 times 10 over sine 99 there. So 10 over sine 99. And all you need to do now is just put this right hand side here into your calculator. So in this case now for a here, if you put this in correctly, obviously just make sure that you give your solution here to 1 decimal place. What you should get then is a is equal to 7.9 centimeters there. Okay, and there we have it. So that's the solution there. The very last question, question 2. And that brings the end of this video on the sine rule. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the cosine rule.